Imagine for a second just dedicating almost half of your entire work week to activities that involve um, absolutely zero traditional selling.
Right. No cold pitching.
Exactly. No
Mm-hmm.
cold pitching, no, aggressive closing tactics, no chasing down random strangers. But here's the crazy part. By doing less actual selling, your income actually doubles.
Which, I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive, right? Especially in an industry that pretty much worships this relentless 24/7 hustle culture.
Well, 100%,
Yeah.
because the dominant narrative out there is that to succeed, you have to be a shark. Like you never stop swimming, you never stop dialing, and if you aren't just on all the time, you sink.
Yeah, but when you actually look at the data, when you study the long-term top producing agents out there, that shark metaphor just completely falls apart.
It really does. Their daily routine isn't frantic at all. It's actually remarkably calm.
Right, because they don't rely on chaotic energy. They rely on profound alignment. And well, that shift in mechanics is really what changes everything.
Which brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We are taking a really close look at a proprietary framework known as the Aligned Agent Method.
Yeah, it's a fascinating system.
It is, and it's specifically engineered to help you, the real estate agent listening to this, escape that exhausting reactive daily grind so you can build a highly sustainable six-figure career.
And to really unpack this for you, we are pulling from a pretty amazing stack of sources today.
Yeah, we've got the proprietary manuals for the Aligned Agent Method itself, of course.
Right, and we're cross-referencing those with behavioral psychology texts from James Clear and Dr. Henry Cloud, plus some leadership principles from John Maxwell.
And we can't forget the heavily researched DISC personality frameworks.
Exactly. Our whole goal is to synthesize all of this into an actionable reality for you. The master context here is actually pretty simple. You have to align your daily work with your natural personality DNA.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yep.
Because before we can really get to the deep psychological mechanisms, I think we need to establish the operational blueprint first.
Right, the foundation.
Yeah, the core of this method, which is the 40-30-20-10 success formula.
So this formula basically dictates exactly how high-performance agents should be distributing their cognitive focus and their time. It breaks down into 4 very specific blocks.
Break those down for us.
Sure. So 40% of your time, the biggest chunk, is dedicated to relationship nurturing. This is your database, your past clients, your sphere of influence.
Got it.
Then 30% goes to core business and skills. So that covers your active transaction management and, your own professional development.
Right.
After that, 20% is direct prospecting, which is the active hunt for new leads. And then finally, just 10% is reserved for content and brand marketing.
Which is wild to me. I mean, in a world that is just absolutely obsessed with going viral and building this massive social media brand, seeing that brand marketing is only 10% is just, it's really surprising.
It's a huge mindset shift for a lot of people.
Definitely. But I actually want to zero in on the biggest piece of that pie, that 40% foundation.
The relationship nurturing block. I mean, it's the engine of the entire system.
Right. But I have to challenge this 40% time block straight away. Because if I am spending 4 out of every 10 working hours just, checking in with people who aren't actively buying or selling a house, aren't I going to go bankrupt waiting for them to finally make a move?
That is such a common fear.
Like, where is the actual revenue generation in just talking to people?
Yeah, it is probably the most common friction point agents have when they first see this formula. But the fear of going bankrupt assumes that revenue only comes from the immediate forced sale.
Right.
And the math of a sustainable real estate business proves otherwise. The revenue actually comes from being the undeniable top-of-mind authority when the life event inevitably happens for them.
Or when their friend asks them for a recommendation.
Exactly. That 40% block is really about architecting a referral network that does the prospecting for you. Okay, I see that. But that brings up a massive pain point that you listening have probably felt. Why does database follow-up usually feel like such a miserable, dreaded chore?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, why does it always feel like you're bothering people?
Well, it feels like a chore because the mechanical approach is just flawed. Agents often treat follow-up as a transactional obligation, right?
Yeah.
Rather than a genuine human connection.
Yeah, checking a box.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of start with why enters the framework. When an agent clearly defines their why, the deeper foundational purpose for why they even chose to enter the real estate industry in the first place, Relationship nurturing undergoes this total paradigm shift.
It stops being a chore.
Right. It stops being a box to check on a CRM dashboard and becomes a natural extension of who they are.
Which makes sense. I mean, think about the physical shift in energy. It's the exact difference between, say, a telemarketer reading a rigid, cold script versus a neighbor calling to check on you after a massive storm.
That's a perfect analogy. Because the physical action is identical, right? They're both just picking up a piece of plastic and making a phone call.
Yeah.
But because the underlying motive, the why is different. The vocal tonality changes, the cadence changes, the phrasing shifts entirely. And the person on the other end of the line subconsciously picks up on all those micro cues instantly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the psychological texts explain why this is so critical for longevity. Relying solely on willpower to force yourself to make calls is just a fundamentally broken strategy.
Because willpower runs out.
Exactly. Willpower is tied to cognitive load. It depletes as the day goes on. By 3 p.m., your willpower is completely gone. But intrinsic motivation, having a clearly defined why, acts as a renewable energy source. It bypasses decision fatigue entirely.
Okay, so understanding your why is a great philosophical starting point. But philosophy doesn't dial the phone.
No, it doesn't.
So how do you actually turn that noble purpose into a relentless daily practice? How do we build the habit?
This is where we bring in the mechanics of identity-based habits. And this draws directly from James Clear's research in his book, Atomic Habits.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's brilliant. The behavioral science shows that trying to force a behavior change without changing your underlying self-image rarely lasts. It's a two-step neurological process.
Okay, what's step one?
First, you explicitly decide the type of person you want to be. That is your identity. Second, you prove it to yourself with small, continuous wins.
So if I'm understanding the mechanism here, the goal isn't just to arbitrarily say, I need to make 5 database calls today.
Right.
The goal is to actually become the type of person who fiercely protects and values their community. And every time I execute a follow-up call, I am providing my brain with physical, undeniable evidence that this new identity is real.
Yes, exactly.
I'm basically casting a vote for the person I want to be.
That physical evidence is the linchpin. Your brain doesn't really believe your vague positive intentions. It only believes your physical actions. And the more votes you cast, the more natural the behavior becomes over time.
Which flows perfectly into this brilliant concept from Dr. Henry Cloud's book, Integrity. He talks about the wake we leave behind us.
Ah, yes, the wake.
Yeah, just like a speedboat moving across a lake. As we navigate our careers, we leave 2 very distinct wakes. There is the task wake, the profits you generated, the specific goals you reached, the houses you closed.
The measurable stuff.
Right. But then there is the relationship wake. What did you leave behind in the hearts, minds, and nervous systems of the people you interacted with?
It's a really profound metric to think about. I mean, are your past clients more trusting of the industry after working with you? Do they feel genuinely valued? Or do they feel manipulated, exhausted, and handled?
Yeah, handled is a good word for it.
The entire purpose of that 40% relationship nurturing block is to meticulously manage your relationship wake.
I do have to push back a little on the definition of that wake, though.
Okay, go ahead.
Because what does it actually take to leave a good relationship wake? If I'm highly professional, I send a glossy holiday calendar every December. I make sure to remember their dog's name. Doesn't that cover it? Isn't just being nice enough?
Well, the behavioral sources make a razor-sharp distinction here. Being nice is superficial.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's polite, but it doesn't build deep trust. True connection is required to leave a strong relationship wake, and that demands getting completely out of your own agenda to actually value the other.
Valuing the other.
Right.
What is the actual psychological mechanism happening there in a conversation, like practically speaking?
It really comes down to validating the other person's reality rather than dismissing it. Let's look at a concrete scenario.
Okay.
Say a past client calls you and they are terrified about fluctuating interest rates affecting their home value. A nice agent who just wants to keep the mood light and avoid conflict might say something like, "Oh, don't worry about it. The market always recovers. It'll all be fine."
Which sounds encouraging on the surface.
On the surface, yes. But the behavioral science texts call that invalidation. You just completely dismiss their very real emotional state.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And when you invalidate someone's concern, their brain registers a subtle threat response. They feel unheard. True connection happens when you validate first.
So what would that sound like?
You listen and you say something like, "You're absolutely right to be concerned. The market is highly volatile right now, and I completely understand why you're stressed. Let's look at the data together."
Oh, that shifts everything.
Right.
Because validation lowers their psychological defense mechanisms. It basically communicates, I am in the trenches with you.
Exactly.
And when your 40% follow-up time is spent truly validating your client's realities like that, it builds a massive, unbreakable level of loyalty that a glossy holiday card could never, ever achieve.
And it completely separates you from the agent who is just being nice because they want a referral.
Okay, so we're establishing identity-based habits of genuine connection, and we are fiercely avoiding invalidating our clients. But here is the massive elephant in the room. This level of connection is going to look wildly different from person to person. Because, honestly, it's like running an engine on the wrong octane fuel.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, sure, if you put diesel in a high-performance gasoline engine, it might sputter forward for a mile or two, but eventually you'll hear that knocking sound, and the engine will literally tear itself apart from the inside.
That is the perfect metaphor for burnout in this industry. Forcing a deeply analytical introvert to prospect by cold calling strangers for 3 hours a day is the psychological equivalent of putting diesel in a sports car. It destroys the engine.
So how does the aligned agent method actually solve this personality clash?
This is where the foundation of the entire system really reveals itself. It's the concept of sales animal DNA.
Okay.
It is strictly based on DISC behavioral theory, and it categorizes agents into 4 distinct archetypes.
Let's hear them.
So we have the eagle, which is the dominant D style, the dolphin, which is the influencing I style, the elephant, representing the steady S style, and the owl, which is the conscientious C style.
And to really bring this to life, we have to look at Marcus Buckingham's research from his book, Love and Work. He introduces this concept of finding your red threads.
Yes, red threads are crucial here.
Right. A red thread is a highly specific, detailed activity within your job that you just genuinely love doing. It's a task where time seems to dilate, You enter a flow state.
Yeah, you lose track of time.
Exactly. And if you weave enough of these red threads into your 40% relationship nurturing block, your job becomes a source of energy rather than a drain.
Let's actually look at how the execution of that 40% block completely morphs depending on your specific sales animal DNA.
Let's do it.
Take the eagle, for example. The dominant, results-focused, highly efficient type. Their red thread is solving complex problems quickly. They are not going to spend 45 minutes on the phone chatting about a client's vacation.
All right, that would drain an eagle instantly. They'd hate it.
Yep.
So an eagle nurtures a relationship by being ruthlessly valuable. They might call a past client and say, hey, I saw the new zoning laws are going to spike property taxes in your specific neighborhood. Here is the exact appeal form you need. I already filled out the top half with your parcel number. Submit this by Tuesday. Boom.
Massive value delivered in 90 seconds.
Exactly. And that leaves an incredible relationship wake.
It does. Now compare that to a dolphin who is all about influence, high energy, and social connection.
Totally different vibe.
Completely. A dolphin's red thread is shared experiences. They might fulfill their 40% requirement by hosting a massive, highly energized client appreciation tailgate party or, constantly taking past clients out for coffee. They build trust through enthusiasm and visibility.
There you have the elephant. The steady S style, they crave safety, reliability, and deep one-on-one connections. To them, a giant tailgate party sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Oh, they would hate it.
They really would. An elephant excels at the deeply thoughtful, highly personalized check-in. They're the ones who remember your work anniversary or send a handwritten note when your kid graduates high school. Their follow-up is quiet but profoundly consistent.
And finally, we have the owl, the conscientious C style. Owls are analytical, precise, and data-driven.
The spreadsheet lovers.
Exactly. An owl's red thread is research. They would nurture their database by sending a meticulously researched, highly detailed market report, breaking down microeconomic trends in a specific zip code. They build trust by being the undeniable, objective authority on the data.
What's so revealing about this is that the sources argue the what actually trumps the why when it comes to daily joy.
What's fascinating here is that having a grand, noble purpose is essential, yes, But if the specific mechanical tasks you are doing at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday morning fundamentally clash with your sales animal style, your energy will still collapse.
You just can't fight your own nature.
Right. You have to tailor the execution to your DNA. But, well, this introduces a very real operational problem.
I can see that.
Managing all these different percentages, the 40, the 30, the 20, the 10, while consciously building identity-based habits, analyzing your red threads, and making sure you are speaking the right language, I mean, it is a recipe for catastrophic decision fatigue.
Oh yeah, if you have to spend 2 hours every morning just planning how to be aligned, you've already lost the day. So how do you keep track of all this without just losing your mind?
This is the exact friction point that causes well-meaning agents to abandon the framework entirely and just fall back into the chaotic grind. And it's why the sources point to a mandatory technological solution. You need an external brain.
Enter the NovaPulse Agent App. The system refers to it as the guide on the side. Think of it as a strategic digital cockpit specifically built for this framework.
And what separates it from a standard clunky CRM is really how it manages the agent's psychology.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because think about typical software you use. You log a phone call, you hit save, the whole screen flashes white, the page reloads, you lose your place on the list, and you have to reorient yourself. It's digital friction.
It pulls you right out of the zone.
Exactly. But the NovaPulse app utilizes something called surgical updates. It behaves a lot more like a fluid, modern video game. When you check a box to log a task, only a small progress bar instantly slides forward with a satisfying click.
No loading screens?
Nope. The rest of the screen doesn't move, flash, or reload at all. It keeps your brain in a pure, uninterrupted state of flow.
And that flow state is critical for cementing those identity-based habits we discussed earlier. But the app goes far beyond just a clean interface. It actively gamifies your why by tracking relational pulse points.
Pulse points.
Yeah, it takes your dollar productive activities, your DPAs, and turns them into a measurable game. The genius here is that it rewards you for executing tasks that specifically align with your unique sales animal style.
So the algorithm is actively encouraging the analytical owl to spend time building that deep dive market report, and at the same time, it's validating the highly social Dolphin for logging 2 hours of coffee meetings.
Exactly.
It proves that there isn't just one right way to do real estate.
It entirely removes the guilt of not doing things the traditional way. As long as you are hitting your point targets through your aligned methods, you are winning. And to guarantee that those behavioral points actually translate into financial revenue, the app utilizes a proprietary calculation for your weekly goals.
Yes, the success buffer.
Yeah.
Okay, the mathematical formula is your target number of deals multiplied by 25 multiplied by 1.20.
Right.
Let's break open the mechanics of that math. First, why multiply your target deals by 25?
Well, industry analytics reveal that it takes, on average, 25 consistent high-value relational touchpoints, those genuine validating connections we talked about, to yield one closed transaction from a healthy referral database. So if your goal is 10 deals, you need 250 quality relational touchpoints logged for the year.
Okay, that makes sense. It gives me a highly quantifiable baseline.
Yeah.
But then the formula multiplies that 250 by 1.20. What is the psychological function of that extra 20%?
That 1.20 creates your 20% success buffer. Because real estate is inherently chaotic, right?
Wow, very.
Escrows blow up, clients suddenly pause their searches, or, you catch the flu and lose 3 days of work. If you only plan for exactly 250 touch points, the moment you miss a single day, your brain registers a failure.
Cortisol spikes.
Exactly. You feel the panic of falling behind. So by mathematically injecting a 20% surplus into your weekly targets, the app builds this psychological safety net.
So the system actually asks you to aim for 300 touch points instead of 250. If you hit all 300, incredible. You overperform. But if life happens and you drop 15% of your planned activities, you are still mathematically guaranteed to hit your 10-deal goal without the chronic stress. It literally uses arithmetic to protect your peace of mind.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And to completely eliminate the decision fatigue of figuring out what those touch points should even be, the app features an AI strategic sandbox.
Nice.
So you don't wake up wondering what to do. The AI analyzes your long-term goals, cross-references them with your DISA DNA, looks at your current 40-30-20-10 balance, and suggests exactly 5 high-impact missions for your week.
So if it sees you've spent, say, way too much time on the 20% direct prospecting and neglected your 40% nurturing, it autocorrects your suggested missions.
Automatically.
It shifts you from being a reactionary firefighter, just dealing with whatever email dings next, into a strategic architect of your own business.
And when you synthesize all of these components, the deeply rooted why, the identity-based habits, the hyper-alignment with your sales animal DNA, and the frictionless technology managing all the math, you achieve a very specific physiological and business state. You generate momentum.
Yes. John Maxwell famously calls this the law of the big mo. Momentum is a leader's best friend.
Because without momentum, even the smallest tasks, like sending a single text message, feel like dragging a boulder through mud.
It's exhausting.
It really is. But once you establish that momentum through daily aligned habits, the physics of your business change. Problems look smaller. Obstacles are easily bypassed. Success stops feeling like a daily grind and starts feeling almost inevitable. You aren't pushing the boulder anymore, you are simply steering it.
So what does this all mean? For you listening, it means that achieving a sustainable, highly lucrative career in real estate does not require you to fundamentally alter your personality.
No, not at all.
You don't have to fake being an aggressive extrovert. You don't have to adopt a sleazy sales persona. And you absolutely don't have to burn yourself out running on the wrong fuel. It simply requires you to hyper-align your daily actions with who you already are and to use a structured framework that amplifies those natural strengths rather than constantly fighting them.
It really is the ultimate combination of profound authenticity and rigorous execution.
Perfectly said.
And as we wrap up our analysis of the aligned agent method today, there is one final concept from the text that I want you to consider. We spent significant time discussing the wake you leave behind, the trust, the validation, and the connection generated during your relationship nurturing time.
Right, the relational wake.
But look past the individual transactions for a second and consider your ultimate trajectory. If you were to completely step away from real estate tomorrow, would the people in your database simply be inconvenienced by needing to find a new agent, or would they genuinely feel the absence of a vital, irreplaceable force within their community?